Hey, this is Dave Summers, and you're listening to Awakened Nation with Brad Solis.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Solis, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Damn, You're a pro. It's like you've done this before. Dave, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Brad. So good to see you. So good to hear you. So great to catch up.
Thanks, brother. You're in for a treat today. This guy, we're New Yorkers. You and I met at the American Management Association in New York City. Mm-hmm. And what impressed me was you were running their, it wasn't a podcast back then. It was a live stream interview with today's movers and shakers in the management and business world. Mm-hmm. And you were just so on point. We had some great conversations off mic. And I had to get you on the show, man. And finally got you here in the studio or your studio.
We're like, what, 5 seasons in? What took you? No, I'm good.
You know what it was? It was, I had to feel comfortable with the flow. We were.
No, I think you got a solid program. It's so much fun to listen to. And probably the thing I like the best about it is you kind of let your guests be themselves. So
yeah, totally. And for those of you who are listening in or watching on video, you may not see this, but Dave has let his beard grow. He's looking very...
I've gone native.
But it is well trimmed. I got to tell you that.
Thank you.
Yes, well done. For those of you who've watched him on LinkedIn do his dawn patrols, these are videos of his walk in the morning with his dog Edie. And I got to tell you, I love those. I really love watching them. Your subjects are just phenomenal. And then you close with really great music, obviously. So you're doing some great things. So we're going to dig in a little bit. I want to read your bio because for those of you who don't know, Dave Summers was an early advocate and developer of desktop digital media, becoming adept at creating massive libraries of constantly evolving web-based interactive content. And you were doing this long before a lot of people caught on to that. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, pre-CD, heading into CD. That's how long ago that was.
Cassettes, Ziegler.
Whatever era. It took, man. Whatever it took.
We cranked that stuff out, man.
That's right.
Through tours of duty, I love how you put that. Through tours of duty at Pepsi, Accenture, American Management Association, and now Pine Mountain Digital, he has consistently fought for and delivered great customer and user experiences, partnering with recognized global thought leaders and some of the most compelling business storytellers in the world today. Whether through interactive business simulations, webcasts, or streamed video, Summers has worked hard to both put out killer content and keep his skills and knowledge state of the market fresh. I love when you say that, state of the market fresh. If you're looking to have your story told, your brand built, and your audience expanded, this is your man. So officially, Dave, welcome to the show.
Oh, so great to be here. So awesome to be here and to catch up with you. I remember previous conversations we've had being very interesting. Again, you're not afraid to talk in orbit around a topip. I mean, we discuss the topic, but frequently we're orbiting it, which is I find that's me.
You and I have a lot in common. That's what's so amazing because although we came from different backgrounds and different walks of life, we have so much in common, including drumming and things like that. But what I really admired about you is you also went there too. We were at the AMA. That's how we originally met, the American Management Association. And while you were interviewing me, we did do a deep dive. You asked me some serious questions, and I thought, nobody has really asked me those kind of questions since. Mm-hmm. And I just, I don't know about you, but what drives you to, is it your innate part of you that just has to know the truth at a deeper level?
Yeah, truth. Truth. I'm a sucker for a good story, and I just I'm like a story collector. I love spending time with people who have great stories to tell, and also probably more importantly, dragging the great stories out of people who didn't know they had great stories to tell, or reflecting back on their personal histories or their personal origin stories or something like that. Maybe that sounds a little over the top, but I just it's so great to be able to draw that out of people. I like to go into these conversations with at least 3 questions in my back pocket. It sounds kind of nerdy, but it does. It drives a great conversation.
Yeah. I totally agree with you on that one. And do you do a lot of preparation? Because I've had a few guests on my show, like Panache Desai or Dan Millman, and I would spend 2 or 3 days just doing a little more research than everybody else. Do you do that?
It depends. There are some people I talk to where it's almost like I dare myself to be surprised. And I do research all the time. But the level of research I descend to is driven by what I want an outcome, or what I think an outcome could be. And what do I mean by that? If I totally want to get on board and help a thought leader or a big brain person or a C-suite person drive their message home, and they, I try to help them suss out that clarity. I try to attach it to their past or their philosophy or their culture, or, when they went fishing with their dad or whatever. But in cases where things are a little bit more, they appear to be chaotic, I frequently I go in with a couple of things. I put a couple of stakes in the ground. It's more of a straw man than a steel man kind of thing. And I just see, kind of what washes up on the shore. You have to have time to do that. You have to allot the time for that discovery and that stuff. And you also have to get to know the person a little bit, because I've been told I have an unusual sense of humor, a bizarre sense of humor. And there have been times when I've gone down the wrong road with my sense of humor. So long-winded answer, but yeah, preparation, absolutely. It's the depth of the preparation that varies.
You and I definitely have a lot in common, because when I was in my 20s, I would say the most inappropriate thing, and then realize later, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Maybe that was not a good thing to say. Yeah.
I'd run into friends of mine who had just gotten married. I was like, oh yeah, I remember you used to date so-and-so. You're like, no, don't go there. It's like, my head just, I know,
because the wife's standing right there and you're like, yeah, okay.
Oh, living in a van down by the river.
I know.
I love, I think it's great storytellers, and you may not think of yourself as a great storyteller, but you are. We admire other great storytellers. Mm-hmm. And when I'm teaching, because I work with thought leaders and CEOs and people, and when I'm teaching them, I kind of direct them towards great storytellers. And one of them that I always point out is Bert Kreischer, the comedian.
Oh my God, he's amazing.
Master storyteller.
Yeah.
When he tells that story of being in Russia, the machine, I just sit there. I make all my clients watch it, because I said, this is great storytelling. Mm-hmm. And this is the master part of it. He takes like probably a regular everyday story where like, I went to Russia and, we were on this train or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he upscales it to this whole other level of giving you details, telling you, how he screwed up Russia, and all these. Were there any thought leaders that you admire in this day and age that are master storytellers?
Well, thanks for asking. The wonderful thing about my gig back at AMA, American Management Association, everybody, I would have to say everybody that I know, I'm not going to say everyone our age, but we carry around these bucket lists in our head. And one of my bucket lists is, people I would love to meet, right. People who've had an influence on me. I read their books, I saw them on TV, whatever. And I was like, boy, if I ever had a chance to interview this person, big win, fanboy moment, check that off the list. You know what I mean? And what I got to do was at least 7 or 8 times. I mean, and these were like, rock stars in the area of stuff I was interested in. My short list, the ones that I keep going to kind of over and over and over again were Kevin Kelly, the founding editor, head Maverick way back when at Wired magazine, and just his takes on technology and innovation and the inevitability of certain things. But at the end of the day, being an optimist, I'm just addicted to his stuff, and I got a chance to interview him twice. Let's see, Joseph Pine. Joe Pine was a co-author of The Experience Economy, which it was the right book at the right time for me. And I've had a chance to do multiple programs and interviews with him, made a big, sort of dent on me. Edward Tufte, who's the information design guy. That's such a bad representation of who he is and what he does. But his books have become Bibles to me. I've heard him present 2 or 3 times. I think I interviewed him once. And just that ability to just have that list of the pantheon, sort of godlike figures, and just have that fanboy moment where you go, I carry this around with me. I'm a nerd, but go deeper into how you connected with that person's thought or that person's story or that person as an inspiration. And in most cases, it didn't get too weird. In most cases, they were thrilled and they were super grateful. But those are 3 names. There are several others, but they drove my imagination. They drove my thought. They drove my vision of what the future could be. Things like that, if that makes sense.
Totally. I get it. It reminds me of Brian Matamore, who's a good friend of mine. And
I know Brian. Sure.
Yeah. He's the author of Idea Makers and a couple of other books. Yep. Here's the funniest story about Brian. I met him through Todd Churches.
Yep. Todd too.
Yeah. And we're sitting down. Todd. I love Todd. He actually wrote the foreword for my 2nd edition of Liquid Leadership. And so Brian, I get introduced to Brian. We're sitting there, we're talking. He invited me up to Connecticut to hang out and have dinner. And so we're sitting there, and we start to realize for 15 years, our wives, friends, and girlfriends and all this had all had dinner together, and he couldn't make it. We all knew each other for years. Yeah. They go, oh, Brian can't make it. And now we're sitting there going, wait a minute, we are like 2 ships that passed in the night.
Yeah, you know what? We could probably go down that path a little bit here. And I don't want to say it's as I'm growing older, or I've always been sort of Eastern leaning in terms of my spiritual and philosophical side of things. I'm not a Buddhist or Taoist or anything like that, but you just have to be open to the universe. You have to be open to these things that will happen, and you make these realizations that as big as you think the world is, it's really not that big.
It's not.
You know what I mean? And this whole kind of 6 degrees of separation or Kevin Bacon and all that other stuff, I can't even tell you how many times it's like a one jump conversational from a person to another person, or a person I meet much later in life, grew up in the town next to mine. And we started talking about this high school bully football player, and and it was just these moments. I think it's such a wonder. Again, the storytelling lends itself to that, but these the connections you're able to make, and that's why I value things like history and background, and it isn't just. Well, it's recent history and it's lifetime history, but it's ethnic and it's ancient history, even where the roots of so many things, the directions either we're headed or the possibilities of things we might consider, have either all been considered before, or we're here now because of that type of evolution of thought.
Yeah, here's another point where you and I have a lot in common. I'm much more Eastern in everything. Spirituality, medicine.
Hence the first degree black belt certificate over your shoulder there.
Yeah, Chinese and Japanese martial arts, Kempo, American Kempo. But what happened is my dad was a chiropractor. So I grew up with that kind of healing in the house, let the body heal. Now, my best friend across the street, his father was a surgeon. So I had that as well. I had that balance right in between. And so right now, my girlfriend, her name is Tao, Tao, like Taoism. And, we're both into Chinese medicine, really, acupuncture, herbs, flushing out the body, things like that. But getting back to that whole, when you let go and you let spirit just flow. I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of guy, you drop me in Paris, I'll run into somebody I know. And
isn't that weird?
No, I think it's Carl Jung. He just, called it synchronicity.
Well, synchronicity. Yeah. Again, there's programs and programs worth of info about Jung.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Stuff like that jams my head. It brings me, sort of amusement but like love in a certain sense, like a love to me, like, okay, I can totally connect with that, and now that I'm a grandfather, I see it all over again, in the sparks of inspiration and creativity that my grandchildren have, and what it takes to engage with them. And also, the seeds of what you're planting in their heads, 40, 50 years from now, what dots are they going to connect, Yeah.
You have grandkids. That's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
I'm a grandfather. I have 3 grandchildren. Yeah.
But you're like the cool grandfather.
I'd like to believe that. Yes, I work very hard at my cool. My name is Bop. Okay, Bop. So my designation is Bop, and my wife is G. So we're like a hip hop group, G and Bop. The cool grandparents,
Bobby G, the original OG.
Yeah, exactly. But that was a game changer too. Becoming a grandparent, it's just nothing better.
Yeah, I agree. So let me ask, what's your process? When you work with a client, I got to work with you and I was just like, yeah, this guy's smooth. Holy hell. You're running the equipment. You're asking questions. You're monitoring the live chat that's going on. I'm just like, how do you do it all? Is really what I'm asking.
Well, that's a great question. One person can't do it all. Obviously, with the stuff that I'm doing now, it's primarily me, but occasionally bring in experts from a design side or a technical side as needed. But it's preparation. I do have methods and tools that are not. I sort of worship at the altar of enough. How much is enough? And I guess use a military analogy. Yet another one. It's like, consider the Navy SEAL. Now, obviously, there's no friggin' way I would ever pass for that type of thing. But that thinking of being a capable individual, who can link to a team, and real, true, gigantic back office capabilities are a phone call away. You know what I mean? Right. So I think the trick is getting enough chops. You're a drummer, enough capability with the tools, the software, the techniques, the flows, the storyboards, the flow charts, so that you can be conversant, but not becoming a specialist. And that was a lesson learned for me early on in my life when I was a computer programmer. Was I aspired to being a specialist type of programmer, working in this type of language, delivering these types of reports and user experiences and whatnot. This was back before PCs. Old guy. And I came to a certain point in my growth and maturation and knowledge and craftsmanship of coding and whatnot, where I came to realize the last thing on earth I wanted to be was a specialist, because with depending upon, particularly in the realm of technology, if you too closely align yourself to a specific technology to become the specialist in that, how about all those specialists with steam engines? You know what I mean? What are they doing right now? What about all those specialist saddle makers? How's life for them? Right now. So it became this knowing enough, being able to talk about it enough at the enough level, so that you could have you could advance the conversation, you could advance the work needed to be done. You get clarity over not only what you needed from a client, but what you would deliver, in terms of an end user experience or the thinking or the creativity involved. So I think that's it. If I leave you with any thought there, it's kind of knowing what that boundary of enough is. And sometimes it's technical and sometimes it's process.
It reminds me of one of the principles of the Bauhaus that came out in the early 20s, late 30s, and that is less is more. Mm-hmm. Less is more. Carving this beautiful piece of marble down until it's something you can sculpt. You can see the shape, and then you build it. And that's storytelling in video form and putting out a brand. The exciting part is, Tom Peters talked about this in 1997, the brand called You, and he was dead on with that. Now everybody has to be a brand. And a lot of people don't understand that. If you want to, be a thought leader, you have to start looking at what is your legacy or your breadcrumbs you're leaving out there on the internet. And they found out, Forbes did an entire article about this. A company's valuation is usually decided upon the CEO's social media presence, out there in the world. And you and I, we're boomers, so we find this kind of surprising, but we dove right into it and learned it. Am I right?
Oh no, I am. And again, when the Brand You series came out, again, I was like, nerd, early adopter, bought all of that stuff, like inhaled. That, and it was revolutionary, lowercase r, thinking, for me. But it was an eye opener to think that way. One of the big reasons I do Dawn Patrol is there's no hard marketing in it, but I want to get people comfortable with it's okay to tell your story your way, and so if nothing else, if it serves the purpose of getting a look at what's inside of my head looking out, it can help people understand that, hey, I got a story to tell. I care about such and such a thing. And, maybe Dave is a person I could work with on that, or at least he might help me think about it the right way.
Yeah, I agree. Because you have that innate ability that a lot of people I don't think have in the business world. And that is you're coming from the heart more. So when you come from the heart more, you see things that other people may not see. And I've seen this in my career. I'll have somebody sit down and tell me their story. And here's a good example. I was doing a book of just millennial stories. And this one millennial, she came on and she started telling her story of success. She has this salon up in Coeur d'Alene. She's met the mayor. All this success she's telling me about. And this goes on for 10 minutes. And I'm like, there's something missing there. And I said, well, when did you decide to change your life? Because she had grown up a certain way and it was kind of rocky. And she goes, I woke up when I was sitting in a jail cell after stabbing my husband. And I went, wow, whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay, whoa. Origin story. We're going to take a moment.
Right. And then it turns out her husband, every time he came back from Iraq, he would beat her senseless and she had to get out.
Yeah.
And so from that moment on, she made this decision. And I was the phone was silent. We had like 10 people on the call and they were like,
it's like somebody say something. I know.
Yeah, it's like my story sucks compared to that,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, and please talk about this. I think a lot of us disregard some of the basic things we've gone through as if it's a nothing burger.
Yeah, no, holy cow. I could not agree with you more. They're worried about how they might be perceived. It's a bravery thing. It's a shame thing. It's a whatever. There's this sort of dark well that they stare down into, and they're not sure they want to do that for fear of how they might appear, or of and the fact of the matter is, again, when you get old and crusty like me, you understand that your message, my story, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody.
Right.
And when I have clients come and we start in the early stages of talking about video development, we inevitably have the use case thing, and we talk about this, and invariably the first or second question is, so who's the audience? And how many times did they say, well, everybody? And you go,
yeah,
flag on the play. No, let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's not everybody. You know what I mean? Because if it's for everybody, I'm putting together a 26 episode Discovery Channel show on dark matter and how Einstein was wrong. You know what I mean? And the budget on it's going to be incredible. Okay. But if you're interested in sort of a web video series where every video is 30 to 180 seconds long, and we take out Lego brick sized chunks of information that a targeted demographic audience of yours, a targeted buyer of yours, or a targeted client of yours, or targeted partner of yours would find interesting and pithy and drive a call to action or a conversation with you, that's what we want to hit. And we want to hit it hard,
Yeah.
The only other thing I'll say about heartfelt and telling good stories, and that the fear of that, is digital technology is a blessing and a curse. And I'm sure you can appreciate this as much as the next guy. I mean, our phones, this thing shoots 4K video and stereo sound. I mean, again, who thought we would have that type of capability? There is so much, and I'm so glad people are sharing things. But in terms of informational, educational, worthwhile content that grows exponentially every day, there is so much garage, and I'm being polite, content on like YouTube, let's say. 80, 90, 95% of it is totally unwatchable. And I appreciate the authenticity, huge bonus points for authenticity. But you have to come back to, particularly if you're involved in, I don't want to call it a salesy type of thing. I guess it could be a relationship with a customer or a client base or whatever, is, again, what is enough? What is enough? And when I say enough, what is enough from a production standpoint? What is enough from a level of audio quality or video quality standpoint? So I get the heartbreaking story. I get the unbelievable, crazy stuff that happened, but I can understand every single word you're saying. I love your choice of music. You've got clever lower third graphic stuff happening on the bottom of your screen. Occasionally there's an animated infographic-y thing that happens over here. And so you're just like checking off this, checking off that, checking off that. And you're sort of providing a song sheet of the short attention span theater group out there that you don't necessarily want to say, this 30-second video is going to answer your question. What you want to say is, this 30-second video will give you comfort around the fact that, good news, there's more. There's more. There's a website, there's a PDF, there's a phone. You could call me up and we could talk. So that's how I feel about that.
Well, you nailed something that I always have to tell people, because I help people get TED Talks. And, I train them, I coach them, I show them how to fill out the form and all that. And I tell them right up front, especially if they're a professional speaker, I say, look, I'd say 98% of professional speakers don't get a TED Talk. And they're like, well, why? I say, because they can't stop selling. They're so comfortable with their marketing speak. I said, I want you to go back to the drawing board, and as if you've never spoken before, and be more vulnerable. And we find that opening story to what drives them. And I think that's that's the power of social media. If we obviously see some things that are selling us, intentionally,
Mhm.
but when you're being vulnerable and you're, a consultant and you're the individual, it's stop selling. It's share what your knowledge is, share your dynamics, especially that some of that stuff, and dare to not be perfect. Oh my God, dare to not be perfect. I don't know if you know who Jocelyn Stewart is, but she's a military lawyer who went, after she left the military, she represents military cases, and she specializes in child molestation, and marriage situations. And that was a heavy show for me to do. But she became incredibly popular on TikTok with Messy Military Lawyer. And she would do these videos at the end of the day or while she's laying down. She's just like, I'm exhausted. And here's this case. And here's what you need to know. She grew to 1 million followers in like 3 months just by doing that. And letting her hair down, being real. And she's very attractive, but she let herself look messy. And that's what made it people lean in. And it is, it's a sit forward medium. And my mic just blasted when I did that. It's a sit forward medium.
Have you learned nothing? Come on.
I've learned
filters.
nothing.
Let's go.
Right. Pull the mic away.
I know, exactly. Can you come on now? Exactly.
Can you hear me now? And it was, I just, do you have clients, by the way, who are just naturals? Do you get some that are just, boom, they're pretty darn good right out of the gate?
Yes. Absolutely. There's one association that I work with where it is so wonderful. It's a trade association, and it is so wonderful to work with them. Because they know who they are, and they know who their membership is, and they know what an annual conference should be for their membership, and they know what messaging and videos or an audio will work for their audience. And it's just so great because we don't have to play this game of, well, it could be this, it could be that. It isn't that we don't A/B test, but it's like, it's more A than it is B. It's just so refreshing because it's like when I work with them, it's like walking into Cheers. You know what I mean? And it's
Norm.
like, hey, and that's a godsend because they challenge me to be creative for that audience. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you kind of know what'll resonate, but if you kick it up a notch a little bit with the graphics, or you have a little bit of fun with the visual punnery or sound effects you use or the music track you use or whatever, they appreciate that. You know what I mean? It's like, hell yeah, that kind of thing. And you deliberately make some videos that look better on a phone than they do on a computer. Everything should be mobile first these days, but that's another argument. But so they're my sort of poster child for the natural. They need help with the digital stuff, but that's what I'm there for. And and we're such great partners. There are times I don't even see them as a client. It's like we're partners in delivering good stuff.
I love your take on that. Let's talk about Dawn Patrol. And for those of you who are not following Dave Summers on LinkedIn, I suggest you do. I'm going to give you a sample real quick. Here's Dave in one of his early morning walks, giving some wisdom, laying down the truth, and walking with Edie. So roll the tape.
Good morning. Isn't the bridge a great metaphor? I mean, a metaphor for all different kinds of things. People coming together, teams coming together, different size coming together, sometimes opponents even coming together, building a bridge. The interesting thing about a bridge is if you scrape the surface of that metaphor and you dig a little bit deeper, it becomes a little bit more pertinent. Things like bridges that are too small. Would you ever consider driving a car over a footbridge? What kind of time and effort did you put into building that footbridge? What load is it expected to carry? And there's nothing wrong with little bridges. Just remember, don't be pushing it too hard. Don't be pushing it too much over the top. That's one thing you need to pay attention to. Another thing you need to keep your eye on is what it takes, obviously, to build a bridge, a strong foundation. If the bridge is longer than a certain distance, you need to have special intermediate pylons or structures that are going to support it midway. Bridges that have too great a span might fall. Another strange kind of new thing, super new, but suspension bridges, is this idea of vibration or harmonics. If the bridge isn't tuned properly, waves will start racking the bridge and making it tumble and making it spin and breaking it up and causing it to fall. So remember, bridges are great things. Just invest the time and the effort that are appropriate for those connections and for those networks. Have a great one.
Welcome back. What made you start Dawn Patrol? Because I love the fact that you're walking around in this beautiful, pristine area with lots of trees and grass. What made you start this?
Well, a lot of it had to do with the move back in September of 2020, when I was transitioning out of AMA and into being a 100% independent, producer, digital media guy. My wife and I and my dog relocated to Eastern Tennessee. We left Connecticut and the greater New York area and commuting to Times Square and on Metro North for being in the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains. And I'm a hiker. I love hiking. And I'm lucky in that I have a little Energizer bunny of a dog that just never tires out, it was the combination of the walks and the stuff that would happen in my head, these dialogues you have with yourself when I don't know how it is for you, but when I'm walking, particularly by myself, but there's all these inner dialogues and things that happen in your head. And some of it might be, I try to journal, probably not as much as I should. And that helps me capture thoughts. But it was just a place for me to kind of take some of this, walking thinking stuff and turn it into because there was an awful lot of walking talking stuff on TikTok and on Instagram and on LinkedIn to a certain extent, but I tried to incorporate other digital media elements, either still graphics, videos. Obviously at the end of the video I feature a song that I like, that I think is pertinent, and there might be punny type of things going on there as well, but it was meant to be this 2-minute, 3-minute, every Thursday. People could count on me being there every Thursday for this. Let's see what the old guy is talking about this week, kind of thing. And sometimes it's leadership, and sometimes it's communication. And today I did one on money. I don't know, not investment advice or anything like that, but just higher level thoughts on that. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a kind of a stealth marketing device, because I want to get people comfortable. Like my dream, customers, is an individual, a senior level person in a company, an author, an association, right, that feels they have stories to tell, and I'm there to help them bring those stories to light. With audio and video and live events and whatnot. So Dawn Patrol happened because they're quick. It's not a heavy lift for me. I mean, it's simple enough to line up the elements and shoot it. I got a couple of neat pieces of technology that allow me to capture really high quality audio and video without too much stuff going on. And yes, I'm one of those nerdy people you see walking around talking into their phone. That's me. And my dog is a gamer, she's just cute dog, loves to go on walks. And the end result is, a sample of which you just saw. And I love it. And I've gotten such great response from it.
They're incredible, and I like
Thank
them.
you.
And one of the ones that stood out for me is when you talked about just tearing it all down and starting over after you create
Oh
something
yeah,
really great.
the tear down one.
Uh,
That was the demolition hammer one, which is what triggered that was actually via Kevin Kelly and his website about the cool tools. Years and years and years ago, I saw in the Cool Tools website, which you haven't seen it, if you're nerds, you simply must take a look at, was this Stanley Fatmax Extreme Foo Bar, which is a personal demolition hammer about, like 15 inches long. It's got a rubber grip. It's yellow. I mean, all these like Tim Allen tool time things sort of fire in your head, but I've got to have one of those things. And over the past 15 or 16 years, I mean, I've used it, and it's a demolition hammer, and the metaphor of having a hammer for demolition, a personal tool for demolition, and I counterpointed that in the video with, well, Maslow, will tell you if your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, and I countered that with, well, maybe you need a hammer.
Yeah.
Maybe you do actually need a hammer. Anyhow, I have fun with that. I double back on certain thought leaders. I try to have fun with some of the visuals that I pull up. And at the end, I did a very folky version. I played a very folky version of Sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer. That was fun. It's silly, but at the end of it, I know I'm bringing a smile to certain people's faces. So mission accomplished.
Yeah, Todd Churches and I came up with a new Maslow's, hierarchies.
The new pyramid. What do you add?
We added Wi-Fi for the next generation. And, just cracked up. And he drew it in like really, like adolescent,
exactly. It's like baseline.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. It's ironic you brought up Sledgehammer because that was the first video stop motion that was done using, I believe it was an Apple computer, a Macintosh, with a CD, the big CDs, the album size CDs burning.
The laser disc burns?
Laser disc burned section by section. And there was, the people who did the video, they were in Manhattan, and they did it from their apartment, and they just did not have enough space to do it all at once. So they had to do sections at a time. And Peter Gabriel had to be there with his head with all this claymation, and they did one, step at a time. And, I know you appreciate this because it goes back to the day when we didn't know what the hell this technology was going to give us.
Yeah.
And you see this creative genius just create something.
Exactly. And I look for those moments. I look for those either personal kind of breakthrough technology enabled creative head blowing moments. I see it an awful lot with augmented reality stuff, works of art that have been done in Adobe's AR tool for my phone are just mind blowing. What artists are accomplishing with AR on a very personal level. But spectacle. I worship at the altar of spectacle. And I used to drag my kids, because it wasn't as common as it was way back when. Every Christmas season, I would drag my kids into New York City, and we go to Lincoln Center theaters and watch an IMAX movie, whatever was playing. We would sit in the best seats in the house and put on our headphones and our goggles, and they were, blown away by these, 20-story high, images and sound. I think we're at a point now, and I knew we would get around to talking about this sooner or later, because I'm interested in your point of view on it as well.
Sure.
We're in the thick of artificial intelligence or artificially intelligent generated works of art, and with things like Astri AI and all these other tools, and obviously Chat GPT from a textual conversational standpoint. My take on that is very much in keeping with Kevin Kelly's take on artificial intelligence. And if you want to read sort of his quick and dirty on that, I recommend the book, The Inevitable, is one of his last books called The Inevitable. Great book. And in conversations I had with him about that, it's inevitable that these AIs are going to be a part of our life. What's going to be challenging for us is, as with Boris Spassky and these other chess masters and stuff like that, the true achievements, the true great works, the true victories, if you want to call it that are going to be attained are going to be with humans, smart humans, creative humans, motivated human beings working, partnering in tandem with AIs. I think there's some justification for the sort of lizard brain fear of artificial intelligence. It's hard to argue with that. And I know you've watched the same really bad B and C grade, 1970s science fiction movies about computers taking over the world. But without that, you're forfeiting your future without embracing that and learning how to dance with AI, so to speak. You're locking yourself into a box. And to anyone who will listen to me, I send them a link to ChatGPT. You know what I mean? I have them look at some of these other Adobe's whole suite of AI-enabled tools right now. And the trick is not to say, well, there goes my job. You know what I mean? The trick is to say, how can this improve and enhance and make me more creative and more productive? And
right.
I think that's the argument you have to make. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of it. That's extremely easy for me to say. I understand that, but in the long, it's a tool. It's a high-end tool. But if you work with the tool, your future will only get better and better.
Yeah, getting back to the Bauhaus rules, one of the rules of the Bauhaus for all creatives, whether you're an architect or, graphic designer, was embrace each new level of technology that comes along. So when the airbrush came along, I learned the airbrush. I learned, how to do a 4X camera. So I hesitate in the beginning because I'm looking at the landscape, where do you dive in? And so I like to write. I've written books and chapters in other books, and I'm looking at this whole chat GPT as sort of let's see what it can do with a book. Let's see what it can do with this, and I can always go in and change it and doctor it up. It's
I don't think there's anything wrong with using it as a trampoline or a springboard or a diving board or something like that. But, I've gone on record as saying this, if you do publish a piece of content that you feel in your heart of hearts, you have partnered with an AI on, you know what I mean? It isn't just you took ideas or outlines from them and fleshed it out yourself, but you indeed, I would say you're maybe like 50-50 with the text, the words in the book. You should have a way for, in the new world, for giving attribution to that AI, or if no other reason, letting your audience know that this was Brad plus, and that's the way I joke about it on LinkedIn is, this isn't Dave, this is Dave plus. You know what I mean? And when I say plus, I don't mean the word plus, I mean like a little plus sign next to my name that suggests or implies that this was done with artificial and intelligent assistance.
Right.
If people are going to get all knotted up about it,
Yeah. Well, take a look at the artists that are painting inside the virtual reality. Yeah. We may never see those paintings in the real world, but the 3D stuff they're creating.
That's what I'm talking about. This AR stuff. That most of the cool stuff I've seen is enabled like on an Adobe AR app via like your iPhone. There's stuff you walk through. You know what I mean? Stuff you put on a tabletop, or it's amazing.
AR is augmented reality. For those of you who don't know, and it started with our phones. Actually, you could hold up your phone. Let's say you were visiting London. And you could sit there and say, well, where are all the bathrooms? And all you have to do is hold up your phone with the camera on it, and it'll actually show you digitally where each of these bathrooms are. And, it just makes like for shopping experiences, or you need to find an emergency, place, or whatever. It's augmented reality. It just takes it up a notch. And it's part of our modern world. We're heading into that Star Trek world, that we always dreamed of, you and I grew up with. If you watch, I think it's the episode with Khan. You remember the original with Ricardo Montalban?
The original Ricardo Montalban, yeah.
He, in that episode back in the 60s, he was using this tiny computer with its tiny screen with these little squares that he just kept popping in. Now they were made of wood, they were props, obviously. But when the Macintosh first came out, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And so we've had these influences, from Star Trek and,
well,
remember,
come on. Remember the lawsuit a couple of years ago where Apple was like, yeah, there you go. Look at that guy. He's got a communicator. where I forget who it was. Apple was giving a dose of crap to somebody about something or other. And then that other company, I think was it Google or something like that. They managed to get like Stanley Kubrick's estate or MGM to like sue Apple for the idea of the tablet. And there's like 15 minutes worth of footage from 2001: A Space Odyssey where there's the iPad, you know what I mean? And it's like 1968, on that type of thing. I just want to say one quick thing about the dance between humans and technology. And that's, it kind of comes full circle for what we've been talking about, Brad. And that's, at the end of the day, the stories are going to matter. You know what I mean? Yeah. At the end of the day, what's going to make you a super marketable author, thought leader, employee, executive, whatever, is your ability to connect with other human beings. This technology is great. It's a tool. It's an enabler. It'll help you tell better stories and, be more credible. But what is going to matter at the end of the day is, did you move the audience? Did you move them? Did you amuse them? Did you make them cry? Did you get them pissed off? Is at the end of the day, okay, here we go. Be human. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, it makes you better at being human. StarTech, you remember those phones that came out? Motorola. They originally called them Star Trek.
I only owned about 5 of them, but yeah, I do remember Motorola StarTech. Yeah,
they had a horrible reception. That tiny little antenna.
They looked really cool though, didn't they?
Yeah, when you opened them up, you were like, Scotty.
Exactly.
You felt like you were Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
I think you have a really great take on AI, because, and I do too. I'm not petrified of it. Although in the back of my mind, I am thinking Skynet is going to go live soon because, the robots are coming. Tesla has robots. Evidently, they were going to release them soon, and then there's a couple of other companies that are showing you just how far they've come with these robots, and you're like, your mouth just drops open. So I think we're heading into this this dance, as you called it, this relationship with machinery, technology, and humans. And we just have to be careful, that one doesn't dominate the other too much, because then we become the Borg at some point. Let's Star Trek.
Assimilate.
Resistance is futile. Yes. But I love that kind of stuff, and I always love your take on things, Dave, because you go with the flow a lot of times. You tell us what's good, what's bad, and what we should be thinking about. And I love that about you, man.
Thanks. Always extremely cool talking to you. And how can you not like a guy who brings a drum pad to a TED Talk,
Thanks. I was going to bring a snare drum, but I think I would shock everybody with how loud it is.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that was a little too much. How do we get a hold of you if we need to? I know, look up Dave Summers on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn. If you just do like a Dave Summers thing on LinkedIn, you'll find me there. Also my website, davesummers.com. I'm in the midst of finishing up the Pine Mountain website. So hopefully within the next 2 or 3 months, I'll have something that will blow your underwear off on the, Dave, Summers,
exactly.
Right. Yeah. Wednesday only. Exactly.
Yeah. Saturday night, Raceway Park.
Exactly.
Yeah, those.
But that's so on davesummers.com or on LinkedIn is the best place to find me.
Yeah. You're very active on LinkedIn, and I like that. It's a great place to go. I post a lot of Awakened Nation shows on there, especially the business ones.
Yep.
But anyways, we're going to go into the lightning round of the show.
I wasn't prepared. I'm not prepared.
You're not supposed to be prepared.
Okay.
This is why it's the lightning round.
Okay.
First question. What pisses you off?
Small-minded, bureaucratic people in small jobs who think they're in much bigger jobs and have much more control than they do.
Yeah. We all know those. We all have DMV horror stories. That's a good one. I think we can all lean in on that one and go, I have a story.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
I guess my second question is there anything outrageous that you do that we don't know about you?
Oh, outrageous.
Well, it doesn't have to be outrageous.
It's outrageous.
Maybe you like model trains. I don't know.
No.
you and I both like to hike. So I love hiking.
I would say something unusual over the past year or so. I'm paying far more attention to my ethnic roots. And I've been doing a deeper dive on, because believe it or not, I am 1/4 Carpatho-Rusyn. And not too many people know about the Carpatho-Rusyn community. Yeah, Carpatho-Rusyn. Look it up.
Is it the Carpathian Mountains?
Like the Carpathian Mountains, yeah. They're basically a people without a country. And I've been doing an awful lot of research on that lately. It was my mother's side of the family, but I'm 1/4 Carpatho-Rusyn, not Ukrainian. And it's that's been blowing my mind lately.
Wow. Well, my dad being Hungarian, we grew up in a household with the food and the ethnic.
Yep.
I remember this band, Rikyo, came to Hershey, and my dad goes, "We have to get tickets," and we went to like every concert.
Yeah,
Dad,
exactly.
You need to relax.
Okay, all right, and stop wearing that lederhosen. You're embarrassing me.
I get it. Oh, I have a great story. We were up in Canada. My dad took us to Niagara Falls, and my grandmother, who was 100% Hungarian, had just passed. And so we're up on a family vacation, and my father finds a Hungarian restaurant, and for 4 days we are eating there.
Nothing but Hungarian.
And my mother finally goes, "Michael, enough's enough."
That's beautiful. I love that story.
That one's fun. So good luck with your roots, because maybe you should go visit, take a trip.
There was a time when I would consider that. Obviously, with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict going on right now, that would be difficult. But there are some unbelievable, again, I just got done with a great book on the subject, but there's some unbelievable YouTube videos, really excellent. I'm going to call them travel. I would say history/travel videos on the Carpathian Alps and on that history of that area and those people.
So let me ask you another question in closing. What are you really passionate about?
Hearing and telling great stories. That just does it for me completely.
And I think we just did that today.
If you say so.
Hey, everybody, reach out to Dave Summers on LinkedIn, just exactly how it sounds, SUMMERS. And, just enjoy his videos and make some comments. And, and thank you so much for being on Awakened Nation, Dave. We finally did it, my friend.
I know. It's so great. Great catching up with you. And next time we're together, the Hungarian lunch is on me. Okay.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah. Well, we travel, so we'll be down in Tennessee at some point.
Okay. So, I'll see you then.
You bet. Hey, everybody, tune in next week for another extraordinary episode of Awakened Nation. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.